Alright, welcome back everybody. Ryan here again with part 2 of this DPF removal, replacement, installation, all that. First video, we took it out. We took it out of the truck and took it apart, and I've got everything down here in the shop now and got it all took apart and everything cleaned. And I wanted to show you all what exactly I cleaned and all that to make this go back together and not have any leaks. So we'll get into that here in a second. So again, you got 3 pieces. If you watch the first video, this here's the inlet side or the catalyst. Then the DPF section, which I have in the box, or the actual filter, the brand new one. And then you have the outlet side here. So we took that all apart. We left this the first temp sensor and the catalyst. Didn't need to mess with that. No sense of trying to break that or anything, because that's relatively new. That was put in last year, so I didn't see the need to replace that. So I took this apart, laying down horizontal is the easiest way to take it apart, and then putting them back together. The best way that I think is to get 2 4x4s here. And there's kind of a concave where this inlet tube goes in, so you can't let it sit on the ground. You actually got to put a 4x4 or some 2x4 or something on each side. And I think, in my opinion, the best way is just to stack this up and put it together. That way you can get everything flat with your gaskets and clamp. But I've got this sitting here. It's all cleaned up. I'm going to do a close-up of that in a minute. And I've got my first clamp already on here, so that way you don't have to overextend that clamp and bend it to where it won't fit right. So I've got that on there and ready to go. So we'll put the DPF, the new filter, on top of this with the gasket, and we'll tighten it up, and then we'll put the outlet side and the end on there. So then we'll put all the sensors and everything back in, and the probes for the differential pressure sensor, and then pretty much put it back in the truck for the most part. So I'm going to flip this around and show you guys a couple close-up things here and what I focused in on as far as cleaning, and then we'll start putting it together. Alright, one of the spots you're going to want to focus is on where these gaskets go for your inlet here. You can see I've got that all the way down to the metal there, nice and smooth and clean. And I've got a couple wire wheels here on the grinder that I've used. On the outlet side, actually, it was built up thick and all that, so I actually had to use a hard grinding disc to get in there. You just want to be careful you're not cutting into the metal, just that old gasket material. So to knock all that off with that, and then hit it with the wire wheels. So you got the inlet here. You want to get that nice and clean. Then you got these mating surface for the actual filter. So you want to make sure that's all clean around there, and you can just hit that with a wire wheel. I mean, on this catalyst, I want to make sure not to damage this ceramic material. And after I was done, I took compressed air and cleaned everything out real well. So the same thing here on the outlet side. I just want to clean that mating surface up real well. And this was where I had to use that grinding wheel to just kind of go back and forth on the edge to get all that old material off there, and then I hit it with the that wire wheel, and compressed air, cleaned everything off. So we still got our marks to where we took everything apart. I got the mark here where my clamp was, and I took pictures with my phone when I took it apart where I could have a point of reference on the new filter section, so that we know how to put it all back together. So here's the brand new filter, and it's marked with the outlet on that side. So this outlet's going to be on top of the stack. So we're just basically going to pick it up and put it right down on there with the gaskets, of course. This came with new gaskets here, 2 of them in there, and I picked this thing up at D&W Diesel in Cleveland. It was a little over $1,500 out the door for a brand new unit, and I believe Kenworth, they wanted like $1,200 or $1,300 for a reman unit with a $700 core, and they don't even offer the new units. But this is actually Cummins emissions solutions. This is actually a Cummins part. I mean, they said aftermarket, but it's Cummins owns this company, or it's part of Cummins. So, and you can see there that's a EPA year 2010 ISX DPF service kit, and that part number there, that 2871578K, is the same number. That K, I guess that means it's an aftermarket or a new one or whatever. My old one, I think, had an RX on the side of it, which means it's a reman unit that was digitally printed on the side of the old DPF here, so, or the old filter. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this gasket on, and we'll set this down on here and see what we got from there. Alright, so we got a new gasket, and we're just going to put that down on there, over that flange, and get our new filter out. And you want to be really careful with both of these, because that's like a ceramic material, and it can be broken or cracked really easily if you drop it or something. Yeah, that'd be a lot of money down the drain. Like I said, well, if they're cracked, they're ruined. So we'll go ahead and set this down on there. And then my point of reference was this port right here for our differential pressure sensor probe. And I had it about a third of the way up on that, where that probe goes. So it's going to go about right there. So I just want to make sure that gasket's all set in there right. Nothing's pinched or sticking out. And we'll go ahead and put the clamp on. We'll go ahead and I'll hit that with my little electric impact just to snug it down, and we'll go ahead and put the top on as well, the outlet side. So same thing, just want to put that down over that flange there. And again, you want to put these clamps on first, so that way you're not hyperextending them. I mean, because if you got to put it around it, the whole thing, you're gonna have to really spread this. Then you can bend it here and here and here where those cuts are, and they won't fit right. So it's best to put those on first. And that's kind of with any clamp, even with the inlet and outlet clamps down there, to put those on either on the pipe side or down in there first before you go ahead and install everything. Make sure that's centered, and I got it lined up with the top third of that port right there. And then we'll put the clamp on. Now as you tighten these clamps down, obviously I made these marks on here. When I tighten those down, they're going to move. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible for you to get them perfect, but kind of in the same general area. I mean, that way you know where they're in the same, that way they're not in the way of something else when you go to reinstall it in the truck. Is that kind of what you're aiming for? So I want to make sure that's all seated around there, and I'll go ahead and grab the impact and a socket here, just a little electric impact you don't need. I think those were a half inch. Yeah. And I like to take a hammer and go around the edges and just kind of tap that clamp in. If I can find a hammer. Right in front of me. I mean, you don't want to get crazy with it. Just kind of lightly tap that so it seats that clamp and everything. I'm going to tighten it a little more. If you're going to be careful not to hit the filter up here, because again, you don't want to crack that, that ceramic, and like I said, not hit it real tight. One more time. And that's pretty well good right there, so you don't want to over tighten or snap these clamps off. And you can kind of look around and see how that gasket is smashed out a little bit where it's compressed it all around. Just want to make sure there's no, everything's tight and that clamp's all set around there evenly all the way around. And that's really it. I mean, if I have to, I may have to, you know, if we don't have it exactly perfect, to get one or the other inlet or exhaust slit clamps tightened up and seated we may have to loosen one or the other. I'd probably loosen up this side and have to turn that a little bit to get everything lined up, but it should be pretty close given we put it, indexed it back where we had it before. So I'm going to go ahead and put the sensor holder thing on there, and this goes on here kind of like so. I'll have to look at the old one to get it exactly where it was at. Look at my pictures, and then I will put the sensors back in, which are pretty self-explanatory. You got temp 2, temp 3. They're actually both the same. You could interchange those two sensors. I mean, as far as your, they're marked on here which one's which one plugs in, because actually these two sensors are the same. They're the same part. So you could put them in either one. The cord and everything, the wire is the same length. Then obviously with the differential pressure sensor, this side's going to go to that side, this side's going to go to that side, so it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'll go ahead and band that on there and put the sensors in, and then we'll take it out to the truck, and I got a couple things I'll show you out there, and then we'll put it in and see what happens here. Okay, so I've got this back up in here, and I'm sorry that I couldn't kind of do this in real time with y'all. It's kind of heavy and awkward to get it up in here, especially with working with just one other person and then trying to film it. So what you gotta do is you gotta kind of drag it through on this particular truck, kind of here through between the fuel tank and this carrier, and then get it up on, put one end, this end up in here. Then you can set your jack underneath and put a 2x4 or something under it, then just raise the whole thing up. And then from there, you can go ahead and bolt one of these carrier, like these little brackets here that hold the bottom of it in. And then I'll come down to this side and go ahead and put the gasket in and go ahead and bolt this pipe up first. Then once I've done that, well, before that, just lay this bracket underneath there. Once you get this tightened up, go ahead and put the bolts in, and you know, tighten that bracket up there. So then you got both of those tight, and then I'll come back here to the SCR, the outlet pipe here, put that gasket in, and go ahead and tighten that up. But you may, if it's not quite perfect, you may have to loosen up this clamp a little bit on the DPF and let that rotate a little bit so that is set, so this flange here can seat properly. Then tighten that back up in the same process as earlier by tightening it, then kind of tapping it with a hammer. So then after that, really just got the two plugs up here to plug in. We plug those in, and I just got to tighten up these band clamps around these brackets here on each end here. And there's a little bracket right here, and there's a clamp that goes around it, so I just got to tighten that up, tighten that clamp up around the pipe there that kind of supports that. Then other than that, we just got this bottom plate that just screws in there. So that's pretty much it. So there's not really a whole lot to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up down here. Then we're gonna go up and start the truck up and put it through a regen and differential pressure sensor restriction test, and that'll reset the soot levels or the pressure levels and basically reset everything. So finish up down here, then we'll go up top. Alright guys, so back up here in the truck, I've got my Bosch hooked up, and I'm going to clear everything out of this before we start the truck up, and then I'm going to hook the PDI back, I'll shut everything, turn it off, and hook the PDI back up, and going to go ahead and do my restriction test, and that'll reset the pressure levels, soot levels, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a full forced regen on it as well. So first thing, I'm going to go in here into the Bosch, and I've done a video on this if you're interested in seeing on how this works, and just clear everything out, because I did have my EGR temp sensor unhooked there for a while. So it threw a D rate and everything for that, but it kept it from shutting down or anything like that. So a lot of you have probably heard about that. You can't, if you need to, if you're in a situation where the truck's derated to a point down to 5, or if it's got you on the side of the road or whatever, down to the 5 mile an hour deal, you can unhook that EGR temperature sensor and it will shut down the emission systems, basically. So it threw a code for that EGR temp. So we're gonna clear all this stuff out. Alright, just shut that off. So now I'll go ahead and put that up. So once you get this cleared out, I'll go ahead and hook up that PDI and see what we got. Alright, so I'll switch this out real quick and then we'll start it up and see what we got. Alright, got the truck started up. We got the light cleared there for the D rate and all that. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a forced regen, and if it'll let me. It might still be too cold. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we'll come back, and afterwards we'll go ahead and do the restriction test, reset everything, and hopefully be good to go. Alright, so we just did a successful regen for the first time on the new filter. So it ran for roughly an hour and a half or so, went through its whole cycle and all that. So now I'm going to get on the PDI here and do the DPF restriction test, which with the PDI it will reset. It does a pass or fail and resets those pressure levels or readings on that on each side of the differential pressure sensor. So go ahead and do that right here, and we'll do the before ash and the after ash, and hopefully that'll be it for the day. So as you can see, it's dark here now. So, getting dark kind of early here, but we'll go ahead and do that real quick. So we'll go to the restriction test, and we'll do the before ash. And this thing gets pretty crazy when it does this. That takes a couple minutes. We'll go ahead and let it do its thing, and I'll do the after ash, and then we'll come back after that. Okay, so there's the screen that we were looking for. I did both the before ash and after ash. Both of them passed. Like I said, the before ash passed, and I just finished up the after ash here, and it passed too. It was failing before, so that is a good sign. So other than that, everything looks to be running hot, straight, and normal here, so that's pretty much it with that. But I'll go ahead and turn this around real quick. Alright, so that pretty well wraps this project up for the most part. Got the side, the skirting back on out there and everything else. Both the tests passed. I don't see any exhaust leaks, and I'm pretty satisfied with everything at this point. Everything's temperatures and all that, everything's running where it should be. So we're going to pretty well call it a day on that. So that would pretty well wrap up the part 2 of the DPF replacement little series we're doing here. So aiding with me, helping out today. So so it's getting kind of late, ready to go inside and have something to eat, and you know, calling it a day. Other than that, so appreciate y'all watching. Hope this helps you out if you're in the same situation we're in with this one, or was. And you know, but we appreciate the views and all that and the support. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and all that. Hit the bell for the updates and all that good stuff there. And we'll see you next time. So if you're new to the channel, again, we're into the owner-operator trucking stuff, Landstar stuff, truck maintenance, as you can see if you're watching this. I do a lot of that. Into the farming scene too. We got a lot of tractors around here, always doing maintenance and stuff on them, projects and whatnot. Home farm projects, we're growing stuff again here pretty soon, here in the next couple months. Other than that, we'll see y'all next time. And again, thanks for watching.